Have you ever felt invisible? Let me explain what I mean. Have you ever been a part of a team that accomplished something really great, but for whatever reason you weren't given any recognition? That can be a painful experience. Let me take it a step further. What if Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, or Carrie Fisher were to completely be missing from the credits of the original Star Wars trilogy? Or what if J.R.R. Tolkien's name was completely missing from his Lord of the Rings books? This would be scandalous, but sometimes we need to fade into the background and feel invisible to accomplish something greater than what we originally intended. And if you're still not sure what I'm trying to say, we have a great example we can explore in this week's 5-Minute Torah. Shalom and blessings from Shalom, Macon, the place where disciples of Yeshua learn, connect, and grow. Well, it really doesn't matter. But before I get into the 5 minutes of my 5-minute Torah commentary, let's cover a few quick facts about this week's Torah portion. This week we're studying the portion of Tetzaveh, Exodus 27:20 through 30:10, and here are the 3 things that you need to know about it. Number 1, 𝐵𝐾𝐻 𝐾𝐭, garments of the Kohanim. This week's Torah portion is almost entirely focused on the details of how to make the priestly garments. Our portion says, these are the garments that they are to make: a breastplate, an ephod, a robe, a tunic of checkered work, a turban, and a sash. They are to make holy garments for your brother Aaron and his sons, so that they may minister to me as a Kohen. This is Exodus 28:4. In this passage, we read about 3 garments that every Kohen, every priest, wore, along with 3 special items that were only worn by the Kohen Gadol, or the high priest. These 6 types of garments are as follows: the ketonet, the linen tunic or long shirt, all the Kohanim wore these. The mitznefet, which is the linen turban or head covering, all Kohanim wore these as well. The avnet, the sash that goes around his waist, all Kohanim wore these. The me'il, the robe-like garment worn over the ketonet, this is only worn by the Kohen Gadol. And the ephod, similar to an apron worn over the me'il, this is only worn by the Kohen Gadol. The choshen was the breastplate attached to the ephod. The Kohen Gadol was the only one that wore this. Besides these 6 items, the Kohanim wore 2 additional items: the tzitz, which is the golden headpiece worn only by the Kohen Gadol or the high priest, and the michnasayim, the linen pants worn by all the Kohanim. At any one time, however, the regular Kohen would only wear 4 components: the tunic, the turban, the belt, and the pants. At times, however, the Kohen Gadol could wear up to 8 components: the ephod, the breastplate, the robe, the tunic, the turban, the belt, the crown, and the pants. Number 2, the choshen hamishpat, the breastplate of judgment. The choshen hamishpat, or the breastplate of judgment, according to Exodus 28:30, is only worn by the Kohen Gadol. It was a piece of woven cloth made of 3 colors of dyed wool: techelet, argaman, and tolaat, linen, and golden threads. It was folded in half with 12 precious stones set into gold mounts, with each stone representing one of the 12 tribes. These stones were arranged in 4 rows as follows. The types of stones I've listed here are according to the translation of the Temple Institute in Jerusalem, from right to left: ruby, Reuben; emerald, Simeon; topaz, Levi; carbuncle, Judah; sapphire, Issachar; quartz crystal, Zebulun; jacinth, Dan; agate, Naphtali; amethyst, Gad; chrysolite, Asher; onyx, Joseph; opal, Benjamin. And number 3, the me'il, the holy robe. The me'il, or robe, of the Kohen Gadol was entirely made of techelet, turquoise dyed wool. Around the bottom, it was decorated with pomegranate shapes made from the 3 colors of wool discussed previously. In between each pomegranate was a solid gold bell. You shall make the robe of the ephod all of blue. It shall have an opening for the head in the middle of it, with a woven binding around the opening, like the opening in a garment, so that it may not tear. On its hem you shall make pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet yarns around its hem with bells of gold between them, a golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate around the hem of the robe. And it shall be on Aharon when he ministers, and its sound shall be heard when he goes into the holy place before the Lord, and when he comes out, so that he does not die. This is Exodus 28:31 through 35. It says that Aaron and his sons are to have the pomegranates and bells on the robe, so that it, quote, its sound shall be heard when he goes into the holy place before the Lord, and when he comes out, so that he does not die. This is verse 35. Many people have talked about the high priest wearing this garment into the Holy of Holies so that the other priests could hear him still moving and be sure that he had not died. However, this passage doesn't mention the Holy of Holies, only the holy place. The high priest wasn't ever allowed to wear these garments into the Holy of Holies. The only garments he could wear when he came into the most holy place were his simple white linen garments. The lavish, ornate garments he normally wore were to hold the respect of the people he served. When he entered the presence of the King of Kings, he came with humility. Are you a disciple of Yeshua? There are a lot of people who say they are, but when it comes down to it, they really don't even know what it means to be a disciple. Why? Because discipleship is a concept unique to Judaism. It's an intimate relationship between a rabbi and his student. Yeshua called 12 men to be in his inner circle of discipleship, and those 12 men changed the world. What did they know about being a disciple that we don't? I wrestled with this question when I wrote my book, The 4 Responsibilities of a Disciple. There were a ton of books already written on how to make disciples, but I wanted to know what it meant to be a disciple, because it seems that all of these disciples that were being made in our day really weren't having an impact on the world around them like they should. I found out that there were 4 responsibilities every disciple should know, and that when implemented, living out these 4 responsibilities has the potential to change the world. If you want to know what it means to be a true disciple of our Master Yeshua, then check out my book, The 4 Responsibilities of a Disciple, using the link below. This week's Torah commentary is called The Invisible Leader, and it comes from a book, 5-Minute Torah, Volume 3. Parshat Tetzaveh is unique from all of the other Torah portions, from the beginning of Exodus to the end of Numbers, in an unusual way. How so? The name Moses is curiously missing from the text. In every other portion, we hear his name mentioned at least once, if not multiple times. This week, however, the Torah is silent when it comes to actually naming Moses. Why is this the case? Several theories explain why this Torah portion does not mention the name of Moses. The predominant theory connects this week's Torah portion to the major event that happens in our next reading, Parashat 𝐾𝐻. What is this? The sin of the golden calf. While Moses was still up on Mount Sinai receiving the Torah from the Lord, the Israelites demanded that Aaron make an idol they could worship. The Lord revealed to him what was going on in the camp and told Moses that he was going to destroy the entire nation and start over with him. I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them, in order that I may make a great nation of you. This is Exodus 32, verses 9 and 10. Moses quickly made his way down the mountain to intervene on behalf of the children of Israel. He pleaded with the Lord to not destroy them. He went so far as saying that if the Lord blotted them out, then his name should also be blotted out. Alas, this people has sinned a great sin. They have made for themselves gods of gold. But now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, please blot me out of your book that you have written. This is Exodus 32, verses 31 and 32. Moses stood up for the children of Israel. He was even willing to give up his own life on their behalf. He told God that if he was unwilling to forgive the Israelites, then he would have to blot him out of his book also. What book does he mean? The Torah. And because of his chutzpah, his bold tenacity, he was able to turn the Lord's anger away from the children of Israel. And because the Lord did forgive Israel's sins, he did not blot out Moses from his book, but merely from one of the Torah portions, the portion that is primarily focused on the outfitting of the priests and their consecration to serve in the tabernacle on behalf of the Israelites, as a reminder of Moses' caliber of leadership. The Apostle Paul follows the example of Moses by saying that he would even be willing to cut himself off from Yeshua for the sake of his Jewish brethren. I have great sorrow and unceasing anguish in my heart, for I could wish that I myself were accursed and cut off from Christ for the sake of my brothers, my kinsmen according to the flesh. This is Romans 9, verses 2 and 3. Yeshua, the prophet who was to be like Moses, see Deuteronomy 18, also followed Moses' example and was willing to lay down his life on our behalf in order to draw us near to his Father. He, quote, emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. This is Philippians 2, verses 7 and 8. Paul tells us that Yeshua emptied himself. In a sense, both he and Moses became invisible. They were willing to forgo their own desires for the sake of others. Most people aren't able to let go of themselves and truly focus on others. A true leader, however, is a servant and a shepherd. He's willing to lay down his life on behalf of his flock. His actions should not be focused inwardly, but on those whom he is leading. Yeshua told his disciples, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many." Mark 10:45. Both Moses and Yeshua exhibited this trait by being willing to lay down their lives for the flock of Israel. A true leader is willing to do the same. On a related note, when was the last time silence spoke louder than words to you? In an era where noise is constant and there are so many distractions buzzing around us, we would love to help you discover the profound impact of embracing silence in Rabbi Damien's teaching called The Sacrifice of Silence. Just click on the link right here to get started.